Bryce Harper versus Rob Manfred. Let's go. A couple weeks ago, we talked a little bit about the Phillies, their meeting they had with Rob Manfred in their clubhouse. Rob has been doing this tour through all 30 clubhouses this year. Usually he does it the year before the CBA, which expires next offseason, but he's doing it this year. But he reported by Jeff Passan, said Bryce Harper stood nose to nose with Rob Manfred during a meeting between the Major League Baseball commissioner and the team last week. Nose to nose. I'm imagining him being like this close, just giving him a little Eskimo kiss. Give you a little nose to nose action. Super cute. Telling him to get the F out of our clubhouse if Manfred wanted to talk about the potential implementation of a salary cap. Pause. Oh, he's in trouble. But to Rob's credit, he stepped right up to him and said, hey, I will not get the F out of here. We need to talk about the economic problems and how to grow the game. Of all people to diffuse the situation, Nick Castellanos is the guy who stood up and was like, hey guys, I still got questions. Can we continue this thing? And at the end of the meeting, it sounds like Bryce Harper and him shook hands, but it was still a little bit contentious. Sources also said Harper declined to answer the phone calls from Rob the next day, which I love. That's just pettiness. I'm having a little petty party, so I enjoy that stuff. So there's a lot to unpack here, and I just want to get into it just a little bit and give it the time that it deserves because there's some meat here. We got to talk about it, and if we have to switch some things around in order to get to mace-plaining here in a moment, then we will do that. There's a few things that I want to point out here and that are important to understand because this conversation is happening big time. A lot of people see Bryce Harper saying, you're not the guy to complain about the cap because you are making the most money on the team. I totally understand that point of view. There are not a lot of fans, but certain fans that are like, why is this guy complaining? Push back a little bit on that, say, it's not complaining because he is the leader of the team. The guys being paid the most money are the ones that speak for your team. So they are going to be the ones making the comments here, speaking on behalf of their group, because that is what they're paid for, right? If you don't look too deep, it's a bad look, but that is who you want to talk. Believe it or not, he might not be thinking about himself. The rest of this, though, I think we got to bust out the old whiteboard. It's time to do it. Let's talk about this a little bit, all right? So first thing you need to understand, why is Rob meeting with all the teams this year? There's two major reasons. One is the Players Association just isn't ready to inform everyone about what's going on yet. They usually do their round of meetings, the spring training of the year before the CBA, and then they are meeting with the teams as well. But the PA did not anticipate the league doing this a year early. So the league is kind of doing it. The PA is not prepared to give everyone the armor and know what the arguments are going to be yet. And so Rob sees an opportunity there, which makes a lot of sense. There is an opportunity there. He feels that this is the best chance for him to get directly to the players that he needs to convert or bring over to his side. Also, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Rob has done a little bit of media lately, which is also very interesting to me, considering he doesn't like doing media. No, he's kind of notorious for it, but he went on Barstool with Big Cat, and he also went on with Pat McAfee, which is interesting, to say the least. And I think he is following a certain model that has worked in our political climate as well. If you want to get a message out, that is how you do it now, and he saw that as an opportunity as well. So he went to the guys with the biggest megaphones to get his message out, and he presented himself as a certain person that might endear him to more people, which, again, it's a good strategy. So just two things to make sure. I wanted you guys to know that that is why these things are happening right now. Let's talk about really quickly, because I asked the question, if you're in favor of a salary cap, why? And I just wanted to know what everyone sees the problems as being, because there is a thing happening here where guys like Bryce Harper are going to get angry. We're going to get one quote from them, and everyone's going to assume a bunch of things like what they want or whatever. Right now, there are a few problems in the league, okay? So we need to agree on what these problems are before we can even have a negotiation, which I think that's the main issue. So I just want to put this in black and white, or white and teal, cyan. What is this color? I don't know. So players believe teams are cheap. They can't compete. So basically we feel that the cheap teams, like the Pirates, aren't spending the money they need to spend, and that's why they're not competitive. That's what the players believe, okay? But then what Rob wants you to think is players are too expensive. And that's why these cheap teams aren't paying for them. I think they both have merits, but until we agree on what the problem is, you can't have, like these are two problems with different solutions. So how are you supposed to find solutions if you can't agree on what the problems are, and that's, I think, what's happening here. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, in the chat and also in the comments on the video. Do you believe that both sides agree on what the problem is, okay? So we hear that is a way to solve the economic problems, meaning when ticket prices are up or streaming prices are up, that's what they say. Our biggest expense is players, and when expenses are high, we can't lower prices like that. 101 version of economics, sure. Is that what's happening in reality? Absolutely not. It's way more complicated than that. And there's decisions being made by all kinds of reasons, like taxes and amortization of assets and moving equity from one business to another business to prop it up. Like there's all kinds of crap happening. It's not that straightforward. It never is. So I want to be very clear about that. But who wants to read 1,000 documents about taxes? Nobody. You have me. Rob Manfred also says we have an economics problem, okay? And he never says what that is, ever, which is one major red flag, because it would require scrutiny. He doesn't want you to look into any of the financials. He just wants you to think it. Like, I want you to be in this range of knowledge. I don't want you to go too far, and I don't want you to have none. You just need to know a little bit, and that's good, right? That's where you prefer to have everybody. And he would prefer to have players there, too. So I'm going to extrapolate. I'm going to guess. One, TV's going away. We don't know how to get money from TV. I get it. That's scary. It's uncertain. And that is hurting revenues, even though every single year the revenue for the league goes up somehow. I don't know. Those two things keep happening simultaneously, and it is pretty crazy, okay? So if that's a thing, that's a thing. Great. Okay, what is the issue and how can we fix it? Tell us exactly what problem the TV thing is causing, like how much money is missing, where is the uncertainty, whatever, and maybe we can find some way to alleviate that. That first part isn't gonna happen. We're not gonna be brought in as a partner, we being players. So that's not gonna happen. So what do you do from there? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. And we're gonna run into this wall over and over and over again. So before we move on, let's talk really quickly about Bryce Harper's comments about the cap and what is a cap and what does a cap do, okay? A lot of people are talking about, and I'm gonna bring out the writing tool here because I love my writing here. People say, just do a cap. Cap works. This is hard as heck. Cap works NBA and NFL, okay? Cool, the cap works. And what the cap is, we talked about last week, was there's a floor and there's a top and there's a range of money that every single team has to pay for their players, okay? People mention there's a lot more parity in the NFL, meaning a team doesn't suck for very long in the NFL. Team isn't terrible forever in the NFL, except for the Jets. The Jets suck all the time. I don't know how that's possible. It's actually baffling. So we don't know why there's parity. But there is. We do know why there's parity. Because 50% of the success is dependent on how good your quarterback is. There's no minor leagues. There's no development. Look at the Washington Commanders. They got a good quarterback and boom, they were good. Like, that's how football works. Baseball doesn't work like that because no player has that much effect on a game. You can't do that. And they have to develop. It's a very game of inches. You have to, there's all these fine motor skills that take longer to develop. So it's just not the way the game works. It has nothing to do with money. So let me just be very clear. The NFL, their CBA is horrendous. It's awful, and they all hate it. They only get to renegotiate once every 10 years. They can be fined up to $100,000 for whatever. Remember what Marshawn Lynch said, I'm just here so I don't get fined? It's because if he says anything they don't like, they'll fine him. So how can players speak out against their commissioner and the way he operates if they're gonna get fined? They can't. So what they did was took such a bad deal. They don't have guaranteed contracts, guys. They took such a bad deal that it's so bad that they don't have any recourse now. They might as well not be in a union. So to tell me that their deal works, it works for Jerry Jones and company. It's a bad situation. They keep adding games or whatever. They're doing it unilaterally. That is not a healthy way to have healthy players that are doing good work. It's not. So I understand that it's fun to watch because there's red zone and stuff, and we need that stuff in the NBA. NBA is somewhere in between us, but the MLB has the strongest union on purpose. I feel like it's a little bit weaker now, but that's what's happening here. So the reason Bryce Harper doesn't want to cap is because effectively capping the amount of money that the Los Angeles Dodgers can spend will only lower the total amount of money spent on players. Let me give you a hypothetical here. Let's say that $135 million contract, 5-year, 135 is the max contract. Just a random number thrown out there, okay? Every team can afford that, okay? Let's just assume that we have a cap system now. There's a floor, it's 90%, whatever. We actually get a floor, even though that's usually been a non-starter. They say, hey, Blake Snell, LA offers you 135 for 5. Great. Pittsburgh offers you 135 to 5. Okay? Let's assume that the teams are run and owned by the same people. Blake Snell's still going to the Dodgers because they're a better run team that knows how to win with player development and good young players. They know how to make players better. Players want that. All money created equal, that's what they want. So what is the benefit now? The same scenario just played out, but who benefited? The owners. They don't have to spend the money anymore. It's going to do the opposite. It's going to do the opposite. It's still going to be top heavy in the same way because those teams are better at making baseball teams. And players know that. When you remove the ability to outbid, that's one less thing that is attractive about those teams. It just isn't going to work that way because of the nature of the game and how it's played. It's just not. So the reason it's not in there is because of control. The players are controlled by their teams forever. There's 6 years of control. They control for 6 years. There's 3 years of arbitration. All those things don't exist in other sports. So, of course, that's why we have uncapped money because all those other things were given up, okay? So here's what I'll leave you with. Let's say we all want a cap and that this will work. I'm with you. Let's have a cap, okay? In order to do that, we have to do 1 or 2 more things. Okay, one of these 4 things need to happen, okay? 1, less ARB years, meaning you get to free agency faster. 2, financial transparency. You got to tell us what the revenue is, where it's coming from, and how much there is, and we got to be able to see it. 3, there has to be a floor. 4, rev rules. We need to have clear rules of what revenue is, and if they break them, there needs to be recourse. Why do you think these things have not been accepted or not been put in play? The owners have walked away from the table every single time in the past that those 4 things have been talked about. Every single time those have been mentioned, they walked away, didn't even listen. So that tells me what they actually want a cap for is to put a hard limit on their biggest expense, labor. They just want to be able to know for a fact how much labor is going to cost them every year, maximum, because it makes maximizing profits a more clear picture. And that's generally what they want, and they feel like now is the time to talk about that. And guess what? As a business owner, it's okay to take that stance. That's fine. It really is, right? I don't think it's evil. I don't think people are bad. I don't. It's their job. It's Rob's job as well. Like, he's a lawyer, labor lawyer. I don't understand why you would choose that job. Actually, I do. You make $20 million a year. But if you're not willing to listen on those things, that tells me that the things that you're saying and the intent you have isn't. And that's what Bryce Harper is saying. Bryce is like, you won't like these things, so stop talking about this. We said we want this. If you want that, you've said no every time, so stop bringing it up. And he was frustrated and annoyed by it. And then he got into the commissioner's face. And that makes Trevor happy, all right? Any questions, class? I'm sorry I get so fired up about stuff, but it's confusing. It's confusing. It doesn't make sense. A lot of people are like, what is actually happening? It doesn't need to be this way. What I want and what players want is just the opportunity to determine what fair is and then get it. We just want to establish what fair is and work together to make everything as good as it can be. I have no problem with that. If everyone benefits and I don't feel like I'm constantly being taken advantage of and being talked down to, then I'm cool with it. But for some reason, that is too much power. Having a seat that's almost equal at the table, not equal, it'll never be equal, but almost equal as peers is just too much power. And that's frustrating, and he got really frustrated by it and yelled at the commissioner. So that is where that came from. That is why some players are gonna seem really angry, is because we've heard this before. We have the same problems with it that we've always had, and they know that, and they refuse to move at all on the things that we need to have this discussion. So I wanna communicate that with you. Hopefully it's more clear now and that you are feeling a little bit better about it. That's it. I wanna know what you guys think my solutions be. I think it's about incentives. I believe that it's gonna be about, instead of setting hard limits that can't be changed, you incentivize things that benefit both people. But again, we gotta agree on what the problems are first. Use incentives, meaning like there is additional revenue you get out of the revenue sharing deal if you wanna sign a free agent that is already on your team after 6 years. Like you get a bonus, you get to go a little bit higher, or you get additional funds to use. Then we'll see if owners actually want to use those funds for players, which most of them don't. Some of them do, but most of them don't, and they won't do it. So them saying they would do that is a lie, right? At that point, we'll know at that point. So there are ways to do it. We need to agree on what the issues are, all be on the same page that we want to solve them, and just get creative about it. There can't be so many walk away from the table issues. There can't. Both sides. Yeah, I'm talking about the PA too. Like, you just got to be like, we would talk about a cap if these 4 things were also on the table. And if that's the case, that's a good place to start. And I hope that's where they do. I hope they do, because I do not want this to be locked out. I don't want to listen to every single person on every direction say billionaires and millionaires are ruining our lives because we don't get to watch baseball. Like, that stuff is just, unions are important. Just look around you, man. Everyone just look around and say, man, working people having no say in anything really is not working very well. It's about having a conversation and a dialogue, and we need to create as many situations as that as possible. I don't want there to be a lockout, and I want there to be baseball in 2027, because it would be really, really dumb to miss games over some silly stuff like this, because at the end of the day, everyone is making money. I don't think these issues are as dire as they're being thrown out. I think Major League Baseball is acting like they're dire, and the PA is just reacting, and that is never a good situation either. We also see how that works. That's the news.